and share my screen. Thank you all for joining again on using social media to help communicate with our donors and our supporters, especially during this time of the COVID-19 pandemic. Right now, I know we all might be feeling a little overwhelmed, or you might not know if your organization should be putting messaging out there, but I'm just here to tell you we need to be communicating with our stakeholders. We literally cannot afford to not be. Our supporters are spending more time online than they ever have before. And many of us have had to cancel events that could have been signature fundraising events, or programming that brings revenue into our organizations. And we need to be asking our supporters for their help. We have a unique opportunity right now to deepen our relationship with our audiences online. So I will first just say this: if you are not on Facebook, get on Facebook. Now is the time. And if you don't have a social media account, here is an easy place to start. Social media usage has gone up since the statewide stay-at-home order, and Facebook usage has increased by 37%. Instagram and Facebook Live features have doubled in a week's time. So I want to pause right here and share. Sorry, I wanted to share a poll. Let's see. Okay, well, I don't think I can share the poll right now, but I will move on to our next slide. So our poll was to ask, how many people do you have managing your social media accounts? For Legacy Foundation, we have Miranda and I. I feel very fortunate that Miranda is very savvy in our social media, and what came on to help. And so I know many of you may have 0 people managing your social media accounts. But if you even have 1, these are some simple things you can do.
Erica, not to interrupt, but I was able to get the poll up.
Oh, you were? Great.
Yes. I don't know if you can see it, but we are getting some responses in.
Oh, okay. Well, then let's wait and see what the responses come in on that poll. And then if you could share the results of that.
Absolutely. We'll wait a few more seconds. Okay, it looks like everyone submitted. Okay, so can you see the results on the screen? Erica, can you see them?
I cannot.
You cannot. Okay. So I'm going to assume no one can. So it looks like most of us have at least one person managing the social media sites. A few people are fortunate enough to have 2 or 3 or more people. And then there is one individual who does not have anybody. So I think there's a well mix of where we're at in terms of the group of who is managing and numbers of people managing the social media accounts.
Great. And I'm seeing in the chat that you all can see it. So you can see some of these features on Zoom are a learning experience for us too. So glad to see that you all can see the results of the poll.
Okay, so I stopped sharing that poll. So Erica, if you'd like to continue.
Thank you. So right now, I think it's about adjusting your messaging. We're in a time that can feel very serious and very heavy at times. So making sure that you're creating a mix of content that balances your current events and your mission. So finding ways to connect your mission to the pandemic is important right now. It's top of mind. You don't want to sound tone deaf by putting out a bunch of messages that are totally unrelated to current events. And there are ways that you can do that, even if your organization is not directly providing disaster relief or healthcare. You're being affected, your organization is being affected, your clients are. And so on the screen, you'll see that I have this example that I pulled from South Shore Arts, and you'll see some of your examples here as I've been sifting through lots of organizations' social media pages to see where you are. But saying that it's a unique situation, that it forced them to change their way of life, but they didn't have to stop being creative, and ways that you can join free art or online classes. And so you don't want to add to the noise, but you want your supporters to hear from you. And so making your message relevant to what's going on, I think helps toe the line between sharing news and content from your organization while also being respectful of the situation. And so finding that mix of content that balances what you have going on. Maybe you have online events. Maybe you've switched your programming to a virtual programming, your events to virtual. And so how can you tie your mission to what's happening with the pandemic? Being honest with supporters right now is also really important. So sharing how COVID-19 is impacting your ability to do your work. Like I said, we're all being impacted, even if we're not, directly providing relief. Not communicating with your supporters will make them think that everything is okay, or even worse, they won't be thinking about you at all. And you'll lose those touch points with them that you would have gained if you had in-person events. And so if you had to cancel a signature event, or if you're facing a loss of revenue because you had to shut down your programming, I think now is the time that we can be upfront with our supporters and say that. American Red Cross, as the example on here, says that they're seeing a shortage of blood donations because of the pandemic. And it's something that they're asking supporters to do that is not necessarily just a monetary donation. And so not only did they put out this post, but they had 2 or 3 other posts on their page surrounding this issue. So not just telling your supporters once what issues you may be having, but keeping it top of mind that, our staff depends on the revenue that we get from this particular event that we had to cancel. And so your support is needed, now more than ever, for us to keep the lights on, or to stock our food pantry because we get donations from our congregation and our congregation has not been able to attend regular service. And so making sure that you are being upfront with your supporters and telling them what's going on. Without being too bleak and just saying only what's going wrong in your organizations, inform them how they can help. And monetary donations may not be possible for some people right now, but you should still be asking. And so you can offer alternative ways of giving, like hosting a Facebook fundraiser. And I've had a few donors, more so now than I think we've had regularly, asking if they can host a Facebook fundraiser in support of a fund they have here. And so being prepared to put asks out to your donors that may not be a monetary. I saw a hashtag going around, donate your stimulus check. So if you have donors who are getting a stimulus check and they may not need all or part of it, asking them if they care about your organization and can spare it, and being mindful that you want to say, if you can, that they can donate a part of that to your organization.
Hey, how are you?
And so informing your supporters about the special incentives for giving right now. So there are some incentives for charitable giving in 2020 that are unique to this situation that you can share with your donors and supporters on social media. So for this year, the limitation on how your charitable donations can be deducted, that's been lifted. So previously, it was a max of 60% for cash and 50% for non-cash. And right now, that there is no limitation on how much of your charitable donations you can deduct for 2020. So that's a special incentive that you can share with your supporters right now. And also anyone who donates up to $300, whether they itemize or not, they can deduct that against their income for donations in 2020. And I think that this one is, the $300 one is maybe more appropriate for social media because it can incentivize some of uh, those smaller level donors who might not be giving above the standard deduction, but maybe giving at a lower level and could use that deduction of up to $300. So leveraging hashtags. I don't know how many of you use hashtags, but we use them sometimes. We try to leverage them when there's a national movement going on. Uh, But leveraging hashtags can really help raise awareness with trending. It can also help you track your posts. So if you're doing, you know, you want to track how your analytics have been around your COVID-19 posts, you could add a special hashtag in there to then look at all of those at a later time. 2 to 5, I think, is generally a pretty good number. There are ways to incorporate more. I think too many hashtags starts to look kind of like spam, and if you want to include more, then I recommend placing them in the first comment. So for Facebook, you should do around 0 to 2 hashtags. They're okay to use if you want to add context to your post, but sometimes posts without hashtags actually perform better than posts that include them. So I wouldn't go crazy with the hashtags um, on Facebook. Twitter, I recommend 1 to 2. Using up to 2 hashtags has been shown to double engagement. However, more than 2 can actually increase that engagement. So you don't want to go more than 2, but using 1 to 2. And then Instagram, you could go crazy with hashtags if you want. You can use up to 30 in your feed, up to 10 in your stories. I think I would still go with the 2 to 5 is fine. And if you want to add more, if you're trying to really target a certain group, so you could use, a hashtag that says the city or town that you're in. You could use a hashtag around the issue that you're focusing on. If you want to target, a certain demographic, you can use hashtags for those kinds of targeting measures. And then in your stories, you can use up to 10. So if you're using more, go ahead and place them in that first comment. So I'm going to pause here, and I see we have some questions in the chat. If there is anything that we can answer at this moment. Okay, so what is it about hashtags that increases engagement? So hashtags increase your engagement because you can search by hashtags, and there are also trending hashtags that will move posts up. So there are ways that you can find top trending hashtags, and I can share some of those resources. There are hashtags that are always trending, like Instagood, or love is a hashtag that trends highly. And then you can also help to target groups. So if you're Habitat for Humanity, It could be home sweet home, or just the word home, new homeowner. So all of those. So when someone is on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter and they're searching for, um, they can search your post by that hashtag. Miranda, is there anything else that you might want to add around how hashtags have been helpful or help increase engagement?
Yeah, I would also add, specifically for Instagram, you can follow hashtags. So then those will naturally pop up onto your newsfeed. I don't believe you can do that for Twitter, and I know definitely not for Facebook, but you can search them. But specifically with Instagram, I do it personally for things that I'm very interested in or things I want to keep an eye on. And it's people you're not following necessarily, but since that hashtag is popping up, you are able to see those different posts. We do have one more question.
Okay, I see the question. How does one ask for donations when your organization isn't exactly an essential nonprofit? We're a learning center. Field trips were canceled, which can be considered non-essential. So I would say that you have supporters who value what you're doing, and even though you might not feel like essential right now, you know that learning and the learning that you're providing is essential to the youth that you serve. And so if you're having, if you think that your organization won't be able to provide those trips in the future because of how your organization is being impacted now, I think that it's okay to ask for those donations and say that, field trips are being canceled and youth are having an educational slide, as they're not having structured learning opportunities over the summer or during the school year, and how your organization and the trips that will be taken toward the center once we're able to reopen things will need support from your donors to continue. So I would say just because you're not essential, and non-essential, I guess you mean like non-emergent or a non-crisis organization, there are ways that you could ask your supporters for their support. If they've supported you in the past, they think what you're doing is important, and so I think it's important for you not to devalue the work that you've been providing. So going live and using stories, I wish I was able to get this video to play in my in the feed because it's really great. But going live and using stories is the face-to-face conversation that we can have with supporters right now. And live and videos rank higher in news feeds than your static post. So you can add a human face to your organization, and you can remind your audience that you have a staff, you have people that are working behind the computer, so that they're not just seeing your emails, they're not just seeing your posts, but that they're actually seeing your faces and can recognize that there are staff and people who are helping to make your organization move during this time. So I think it's a great opportunity if you've changed your hours of operation or you've modified your program, that instead of just doing a static post that lists here are our new hours of operation, or here's how our food pantry is running, or here's how we might be operating our courses, then to do it in a video, to do it in a live event or a pre-recorded if you have staff members who might not feel comfortable going live. So you can have someone pre-record your video like this CEO did and post it. So MICVA Challenge is an organization we worked with to help do some youth trainings. their executive director came on to say that their spring event was canceled and they were moving it online virtually, and that they would be having some youth on their Facebook feed promoting the event and why it was important for people to still attend the virtual event. And so it's a really simple video. She might be reading from something. So if you needed to type up a script or some notes to say something, um, and she also, in this example, there's enough lead time to promote the video and promote whatever you might be asking your supporters to do. So if you're going live with an event and you have a Q&A portion, or you're asking your supporters to give you feedback on something, you want to post some things to kind of hype up the event, and do that, I would say maybe starting at least a few days out. If you could do a week, that's great, and do a couple of reminders. But if you do maybe 72 hours out and say, we'll be going live with an announcement at this time on this date. We hope you'll join us. We'll be asking for your feedback, or we'll be answering your questions if you have them. And then about an hour before you go live, do another post that reminds them about the live session and ask them to join you. So so if you could go to this one's a great one to watch on Mikva, but that's really simple. But going live, as I said, we've seen that the live videos, the Facebook's stories and Instagram stories are starting to rank really high, even more high than static posts. And it just adds some personality to your feed, and some easy ways for you to have a face-to-face virtual conversation with your donors. User-generated content, I think, is one of the easiest ways to help mix up your content mix. So if you're feeling like, man, I can't think of another thing to post, that once you get on social media, it is such a content beast. It's like you have to be always coming up with new content. There is never enough content to fill how many posts that you want to do. So an easy way to diversify your content and really refresh the kinds of photos that are on your feed is to ask your users to post something for you. So I pulled this example from Girls on the Run. They asked their supporters to tag them in this happy hair day, and they will share them. And so I think if you ask your supporters, maybe even to say, we had to cancel this year's event, but we just wanted to reminisce on last year's event. Could you share a photo or a memory on our Facebook feed, or tag us on Instagram with that, so we can share and recreate some of the energy around last year's event. And so also, user-generated content brings in a diverse set of photos that you might not have from just working with your staff or with your clients. And also be prepared to have your staff respond to these. So it can help to get people interested in people posting if your staff posts first. So if you say, hey, we're going to ask people to post photos of their crazy hair and tag them, then send that out to some of your other staff members so they can post first, kind of break the ice and get people responding. We've had good success with that. Also in our Women in Philanthropy event. So in order to help promote that, we asked women to share a moment that they felt powerful, or a memory of their charitable giving. And so those have been successful. You can also have them use a hashtag, because that's an easy way to track. So you can ask them to tag your organization, your handle, or you can ask them to add a hashtag to their post, and that way you can search that hashtag and find everyone who's posted using that. You want to make sure that it's unique enough, though, that it's not going to get lost in a bunch of other tags. Engaging with your audience after posting. Social media is just that. It's social, so treat it as if you're having a conversation with your followers. Not responding back on social media would be like if someone were talking to you and then you just kept ignoring them. So I think if you're posting on social media, that's great. And the next thing you want to do is take it to that next step and make sure that you're responding back to them. So your engagement doesn't just end after the post. So here are some simple things that I like to do that helps boost engagement. It helps re-engage people, and it also, if your post has been on people's feeds for a while and has moved down, re-engaging people with a post or a like will help move it back up in the feeds. So if on Facebook someone likes your post, you can click on those likes and it will bring up everyone who's liked it and then invite them to like your page. It's an easy way to get followers. Some people will follow back, some people won't, but at least you're taking that next step of saying, okay, you've liked something of ours now, maybe you would be interested in future content. So we're going to invite you to like our page. And we've seen a lot of growth in our social media with that one step. If someone comments on your post, like their comment and comment back. Doesn't have to be anything like a long response, just a thank you, we appreciate your feedback would do. But if they're commenting on your post, it's like them saying hello to you and you want to say hello back. If your post is shared and you can see those shares, go to it and like them, and thank you. Say thank you to them for sharing the post. If someone is sharing your content, then they think it's important enough to then share with their supporters. So, you want to like it, you want to say thank you. And then when someone reshares your post or tags your account in their post, make sure that you're liking it, retweeting it, resharing it. Miranda, are there any other ways that you think people can engage with their audience after posting?
I would say, in addition to what you just mentioned, if someone else that's not currently following your page likes the post or reshares it, from another person's, invite them to like your page. I think that's something that's really increased our. Did you just say that? I'm sorry. You totally just said that. Really just engaging. I think inviting people to like your page. I'm trying to think of something else. I think you covered it all.
Good. Okay. We'll come back at the end for that. And then watching your analytics. So it's so important that when you're posting, that you're keeping track of what's doing well, what's not. Analytics are just such an easy way to see who's engaging with your accounts online. So I have two very basic analytics that you can look at for Facebook and for Twitter. So if you go to your Facebook account and you go into your Facebook Insights, so it'll be called Insights on Facebook, you can see when your supporters are online. So right now, if you look at times, you can see pretty much our supporters are online all day long. So they're online from 6 a.m. till pretty much 9 at night. So posting right now, you could post anytime. There's a peak maybe around 6:30. In a normal time, there's a bit more fluctuation, but this lets you know I want to post maybe when we have the most supporters online. So I'm going to schedule out some evening posts. You can also see in addition to when your fans are online, you can see the post types that perform best. So that means, are they static posts that are performing best? Are they posts with photos, or are they posts with videos? And so if you're, regardless of the rules, if your supporters are responding to posts with photos more than posts with videos, then you'll want to do more of that content. And then looking at going across the tab on the Facebook Insights, top posts from pages you watch. So you can add pages from organizations that may be doing similar work as you. And so if you want to look at, let's say you're a branch of a national organization and you want to look at what those other organizations are posting that's doing well, you can add them. You can watch what content performs well, and then maybe you can tailor it for your own social media accounts. Or you can watch competitors in your area and see what they're posting and what's engaging them. And then at the bottom of the Facebook Insights, you can see how your posts are performing, if they got good reach. So that's how many people viewed it. If it got good engagement, and those are, did someone click on it, or was there a comment or share? So that's your engagement. And then you can boost or promote that. So we're not going to get into boosting or promoting posts with paid media on Facebook, but if you wanted to move into that, you can. And so it gives you a good snapshot of what's performing well. We kind of go back to our social media and look at the analytics, maybe not as often as we should, but we try to get to it at least once a year to see, how are things performing? Is it when we talk about our students? Is it when we talk about grant recipients? Is it when we talk about our staff? And so then you can see what content plays best to your audience. In Twitter, so Twitter doesn't really accumulate your content more than over the month. So you can see kind of the last, you can see the last day, the last 7 days, or the last week or month. And so it's a little harder to track long-term analytics on Twitter, but you can see your top tweets and posts. You can see the impressions. So if something you tweeted, and tweets have a very short lifespan. So if something you tweeted is still relevant and it did good, then you can retweet that out again and maybe see the same engagement, because we know the lifespan of a tweet is, I think, just a couple of hours. So on here, you can see those. And then you can see which of your followers, this is also a good Twitter insight, which of your followers have the largest influence. And so you might want to reach out to them and say, hey, would you be interested in retweeting something for us? You follow us, and we know your audience or your network might be interested in this. So you can see those people who follow your account who have a larger influence, and ask them to reshare your content. And any questions about analytics? For Instagram, I should say your analytics you have to view on your phone. So if you have an Instagram account and you're looking at your profile on a desktop device, you won't be able to access those. You have to go to your Instagram analytics on your mobile device.
Erica, I'd also like to add, just because it's a newer feature, at least for me on Facebook, you can now download your analytics. Before you were not able to. And now, so I try to, it always does not happen, but I try to pull our data monthly just to see where we're at, so I can have monthly snapshots of everything. And now I can easily download all of that information into an Excel spreadsheet, whereas before I was unable to. So if you are to that next step of wanting to really compare your months and things like that for your social media, specifically for Facebook, you can now do that feature.
Great. So overall, social media trends, the algorithms are constantly changing. So the way that Facebook, which owns Instagram, or the way that Twitter and TikTok rank posts is always changing. So a good note, just be flexible with your content, try new things, pay attention to your analytics, because those will reflect how your posts are doing. And really, you might not want to have to keep up with the algorithms. The analytics will tell you if you're speaking to your supporters in the way that they want to be spoken to, and have things shared with them. So I would pay attention to those more than trying to keep up with the algorithms, because those are constantly changing. So I will open it up for questions and sharing, and I would love also to hear from you all in a minute if you have some great tips that you'd like to share with other people on the line about what's been working for your organization. So one moment, I'm going to stop sharing. And if you have a question or a comment, feel free to, you should be able to all unmute yourselves. So feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question or make your comment.
Erica, I have a question. Hi, it's Sharita. Which categories, as you're looking at the analytics, which categories are the most in Facebook, the ones that you should be tracking or looking at?
I think it depends on your goal. So if your goal is to try to reach as many people as you can, maybe you're just starting out, you want to gain new followers, and you're just trying to reach a lot of people, then I would look more at that. If you feel like your social media is pretty established or you have a good number of followers, then I would look more at your engagement, how your followers are commenting on your posts, how they're liking or resharing it, because that's kind of taking them to the next level. So after they've viewed it, you want them to take that next step to like it, share it, or make a comment on it. And so that's what I would track if you were maybe a little bit further along.
But if we're not further along, what are there?
Then I would track
categories?
Your reach and your follower growth.
Follower growth, you said?
Yes, yeah, your number of new followers.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We have a few new questions in the chat. How often should you post on Facebook?
I think at least once a day is good. There are some sites that say you could post 3-4 times a day. I don't think that's necessary. I think once a day, even if you can get to it 3 times a week, that would be good. Consistency is really what is key in keeping your followers engaged. You don't want to start a social media account and have it sit there with outdated content on it. That's going to be even worse than if you just didn't have one at all. No one wants to go to your Instagram account and see a post from 2018. It just makes it look like it's not active. It would be better not to have it at all. So I would say choose the mediums that you can manage. So if Facebook is all you can manage, stick with that, do it well, and then once you have a good handle on it, then add another account. But post consistently, and I would say 3 to 5 times a week at least you want to be posting on your Facebook account, even if it's just to reshare something. So if you feel like you don't have a lot of content to share right now, find something that is either educational or inspiring or funny. We could all use that right now, and reshare that on your page if you feel like we don't really have a lot going on right now and I don't know what to post on Facebook, just so that it's staying active in people's feeds.
And then Shelly asked, can you export for Twitter?
Oh, I believe you can.
You can. It
Yes.
looks a little different than the Facebook export, but you can export specifically by the day or specifically by tweets. I've never pulled a full month's report because they do give a very good snapshot of all of your information for your month, but you can export some data.
Oh, I see. Okay. How can an educational-based organization best use Instagram? Instagram is good for educational-based organizations. One, because if you're reaching young people, they're going to be there more than they're going to be on Facebook. So it's a good way to maybe reach some of the maybe the demographic that you're looking for. And then again, you can use that to share. You can use it a lot like you would do with Facebook. You could share programming that you have going on. So in your stories or in your post, you can add a link to your Instagram bio and say, you know, we have some educational programming going on online, or we have a website where we're having all of our tools and resources. Click the link in our Instagram bio to see that. You can add those hashtags in. So if you have, you know, if you're targeting K through 12 or grade 8 or post-secondary education, that you can add those hashtags in there that target the group you're reaching, and then add, you know, maybe even the school that your organization is in, which district it's in. So you can even add that hashtag. So I would use it much the same that you use Facebook, but you can add some more targeting measures.
And Megan and Shelly brought up a great concept with posting on social media accounts, pre-scheduling out. If you're just starting off and you only have one account, you might not want to start by scheduling, but once you have your feet wet, I think scheduling out your posts in advance is a great tool. Facebook has it on its platform itself, so you do not have to use a third party website. Legacy uses Buffer. It's a free site that you can utilize, and you can link your social media accounts. I believe you can have up to 3 on Buffer for free. So then you can just type your post out, add your photos or your video, and then schedule it out for all your platforms. You can tweak the text a little bit for whichever platform you're on. But then you don't have to worry about going to your Facebook, then going to your Twitter, and then going to your Instagram, especially with Instagram being on your phone. I know for me, at least, sometimes it gets a little much of a headache of, okay, now I have to go to my phone and copy the photo. And, you know, since it's not directly on your desktop. So I definitely recommend using one of those scheduler websites.
Yes, so Buffer is good. HootSuite is another one that's pretty widely used. And those will also do some analytics for you as well. It might be a paid version that you have to use to get analytics, but both Buffer and HootSuite will combine your analytics in one place too. Things that you want to be mindful of when you're using a scheduler to schedule, let's say you want to do Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook not all at one time, but using the same post. So the tags don't always carry. So if you're tagging an account, let's say, you know, we often share news about other organizations. So if we tag one account on Instagram, it might not show up the same on Facebook. So that, you know, things like that you might want to be conscious of when you're posting across platforms and using the same language. And also, if you're using a scheduler to schedule the same post across platforms, I would tailor them a little bit so it doesn't look like a copy across all 3. So maybe you just want to change the photo. so that there's a different photo on each platform, or maybe you just want to edit the text a little bit so that it doesn't look like you just copy and pasted the same post across all 3 platforms. You can do little tweaks to edit it and make it look customized.
Lawanda asks, do you consider YouTube as a form of social media use?
Yes. Yeah, I think YouTube is only behind Facebook right now in terms of like video usage and video sharing, and that's where a lot of your young people, I'm sure if any of you have young children, I don't, but I do have nieces and nephews, they're on YouTube all all the time. That's where they go to get a lot of their video content. So I would consider that part of your social media. It also becomes a way for you to amplify the videos that you might have posted on Facebook. So if you create a video for Facebook, you can download that, save it, and then reshare it or save it to YouTube. So that way you can send it out in another way. You could send it out through an email or put it on your website. So, so yes, I would consider YouTube an extension of your social media sites because you can use videos both ways. Now for YouTube, and Miranda, maybe you can just back me up here on this one. Facebook ranks higher the videos that you create in Facebook. So when you post directly to Facebook or you do a Facebook Live, that is going to rank higher in the feed than if you were to take a video link from YouTube and copy and paste it into Facebook.
That is correct. So traditionally what I'll do for legacy social media is if I have a video that I want to upload for all of our social platforms, I'll upload it to YouTube and share that YouTube link specifically on Twitter. But then for Instagram and Facebook, I will directly upload that video. As long as it's not too long, I'll upload that video specifically to those websites opposed to using the Twitter link or opposed to using the YouTube link. And then we have another question. What's the best virtual platform do you recommend hosting a fundraiser?
Well, Facebook is great for hosting fundraisers because you can, so Nonprofit for Network for Good is what they use as their kind of charity collector, but you can sign up and have your nonprofit registered to receive donations directly from Facebook. And so if they have given to other fundraisers on Facebook before, which so many people have, they can fundraise right there. They don't have to put in any additional donation information. It makes it very easy for people to share that fundraising link on Facebook. I don't know that Instagram has a way for you to do any kind of donation through the system. I don't think so. Same with Twitter. So I would say Facebook is going to be your best social media platform if you want to do a fundraiser. And it's also very peer-to-peer. So asking your supporters to share the fundraising link, asking them to share posts that you do on your page related to the fundraiser. So there's a lot of peer-to-peer sharing that happens when you do a fundraiser through Facebook.
And then another question, what is the key to getting viewers/subscribers?
Well, I would just be sharing it across your other networks. So if you are on YouTube and you're looking to get subscribers to your YouTube page, then make sure that you're sharing your YouTube link out in your emails, that you're sharing it on your other social media platforms. Watch this video and make sure you're subscribing to it. And also start within your organization. So are your staff following your social media pages? Have you asked them to follow and share and like? And then extending out beyond that, do you share things with your board members? So when we have a post that's doing particularly well or it highlights a board member, we might ask Carolyn, our CEO, hey, next time you send a message out to the board, can you ask them to like or reshare this? And so starting really with your close circles, getting them to follow and share and like the information that you're putting out, and then extending that to their networks.
Dr. McGee wants to know, what's the best media to engage with youth?
Probably nothing that we're on right now. I would say TikTok right now is doing very well. Snapchat. I think a lot of youth don't even text each other as much anymore. They communicate with each other through snaps. So I would, if that's your audience, then it's worth getting into that. But I would say focus your time not on the platforms that are maybe the most trendy right now, because they might not be reaching the audience that you want. If you're looking to engage youth and they're really your key audience that you want to communicate with, then it's probably worth getting a Snapchat account, because then you can create filters and you can geo-target, and you can do things that youth are more interested in doing than being on Facebook, where we're not seeing them. Although, what we have heard from our scholarship alumni is that Facebook is really the only place where they can chat with each other in a group. So Facebook groups are still a place where young people communicate, because none of the other platforms really are able to tie them together the way that Facebook groups do. So closed groups are probably good if you have access to their to their email addresses that are current, and you can invite them to join a private Facebook group. We've seen some success with that with our scholarship alumni. But yeah, I would say TikTok, Snapchat are two of the platforms that are really rising stars right now.
I would also mention, so with the RISE program, Legacy we do have a decent number of youth volunteers, and we utilize them to talk to the other youth. So if you do have a pocket of youth that you can engage with, that you already have, and engage with them and ask what's the best platforms, ask them to share their information. So if you don't necessarily have a TikTok account, nor do you want to manage a TikTok account, maybe youth that are already engaged in your organization are willing to do that. And then they can share that information out. So it's not necessarily you yourself, Dr. McGee, doing it, but your youth are doing it, representing your organization.
Yeah, almost like an ambassador program. If there are young people that you trust to promote on your behalf, then I think that's great. And they may feel empowered if you say, hey, we're entrusting you with some content. Would you share this for us? I think that's, kind of a youth ambassador program on social media.
And then Ruth shared a great comment. Her organization had 2 fundraisers scheduled during the COVID crisis, and they used a recorded Facebook Live from their executive director to announce the cancellation of the tea party. We successfully used Facebook Live and Instagram video messaging, as well as a $10 to $15 sponsored ad for our spring plant sale, and it was the most successful sale that they've had in the past 5 years. So I think that's a great comment to show that the power of social media really does exist. And, you don't necessarily have to put dollars behind a paid ad, but a low dollar amount could even go a very long way.
Yeah, and I think if we think about, how much we might be saving in mailing materials or invitation, direct mail invitations that would have gone out, and if you could even use a fraction of that toward a social media ad, that you could really see success with, $10 to $15 or even a little bit higher, a $50 or a series of paid promotions. But, I think it's kind of redirecting some of the dollars that we might have been putting toward, more direct mail as part of an event that may have been canceled.
And if you're not familiar with Facebook ads, I recommend playing around with it, because the great thing is you can target your individual. So you're not paying for just anybody to see your ad. You're really focusing on those individuals you want to be advertising to, down to demographics, age ranges. You can even select a specific city that you're wanting to target. I will say though, when it comes to the specific locations, unfortunately, it goes off of obviously what the individual has on their Facebook account. So it's not guaranteed that that individual still lives there, but Facebook does offer great resources for selecting your targeted audience. So you're not paying for others to see your posts. And then we do have another question of how can Facebook groups be used for organizations?
So we have 2 Facebook groups, one that we use for our scholars and then one that we have for nonprofits. So if your clients, you might have, maybe you want to organize your board members and share information with them there, or maybe you want to organize your clients in a private group, a way for them. I see it as a way for them to ask questions, sort of another avenue, something that they're already on. It's not something that they had to add. They have to add another website or another login that they have to add. And it's a way for them to just ask questions and share resources. So I think you can do that among your clients. You might want to make it a closed group so you have some confidentiality around that. You could do it around with your volunteers and have, a closed volunteer group. And that's also a great place for resource sharing. You can upload files in that place. You can upload photos and events. So use it in the same way. You would use it in the same way that you would use your page if you wanted to talk to a smaller subset of your Facebook followers. So the audience that's following you, and you might want to say, okay, well, maybe this group of people needs a little bit more engagement with us than the general population of our followers. That's when you would want to make a Facebook group. You do want to be active in that Facebook group as well. So you can't just start it and then leave it up to everyone to post. They likely will not. We have seen that with groups, where you think, oh, we're going to start this, and then it will just take off on its own and people will be posting conversationally. That likely will not happen. So I would have, even if it's just once or twice a week, going in and posting something that kind of gets the group talking. And sometimes that's just even hey, we have a new member to the group. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? And then it will get people talking within the group. So I would say, yeah, volunteers, you could do a client one. I don't know that donors is really the best place to have a group, but those groups would really, I think, benefit.
I know for the RISE program, we utilize the Facebook group quite a bit to make that volunteer ask when we do have just a small project, a last minute event that we would like representation at. And sometimes it's a little quicker to post it in that group opposed to sending an email out or making phone calls to try to find someone. That looks like all the questions we have in the chat for now. I know we are coming up to our hour.
We're 4 minutes past the hour. So I appreciate all of you joining. I should say we have our series next week, which is using Canva to design graphics. Also something that you can use on your social media. There's a lot of easy ways that you can design photos and graphics to post across your social media, but there are lots of different design things that you can create in Canva. It's free. There's a free version to the public, and then there's a nonprofit version that is also free and gives you access to more tools. And so if you're interested in really knowing how to easily create graphics to put on your social media, that's a good one. With that, I thank you all so much. I'll share out some resources with the recording of this webinar, some of the links that we talked about for scheduling posts and finding hashtags that may be top or trending. I'll also add those in the follow-up email. Have a nice day.
Miranda. Been helpful. Thank you.
Good. I hope you found it helpful.
Yeah.